Well, hello again, and this is the heir of Carthage, bringing you the Roman invasion of the lowlands in Brittania. I am trying to play with a legion that might be semi-feasible to Julius Caesar. If you haven't read the Gallic Wars, or Caesar's commentaries on the Gallic Wars, I suggest you read those. They're quite good. And his invasion of Brittania was very brave, almost borderline stupid probably, because he didn't know much about it. But it was pretty interesting. So in any case, up front I have 2 units of these light auxilia. These are excellent troops for warding off chariots, which I believe my opponent will be bringing. I'll show you his army in a moment. My army consists of 5 legionary cohorts, or early legionary cohorts, and I have 3 units of Roman archers here, another on this flank, 2 units of auxilia spearmen, and then my cavalry is my general's bodyguard here, and 2 units of Roman cavalry. Let's take a look at my opponent's army. My opponent is Imperator Celtic. I've seen him online a lot, but I don't think I've ever gotten to play him, so it's pretty neat to get to play him. So he's got a lot of units. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to catch them all. He's got his general here and this unit of peasants that was kind of strange. He's got a lot of slingers here, and he has a unit of barbarian warlord, which is heavy chariots. These guys are very tough. They have like 5 hit points. Yeah, getting tangled up with them can be ugly. And out front he's got 2 units of light chariots, and then there's 3 more units of barbarian warlord chariots in the back. Now some of you may be thinking, oh, this is cheap for him to be using chariots. Well, actually, the British, I don't know, I say British, the tribes in Britain did use a lot of chariots, and they were very dangerous to the Romans. That was one thing Caesar had to face. The chariots had kind of a shocking morale factor of the battle, and they could be quite effective when used properly. So my opponent was driving in some attacks there, and he really got the better of that exchange. He only lost, I think, 1 chariot, and I lost a bunch of archers, which I'm going to need. I'm avoiding engaging his chariots with my cavalry for obvious reasons. Now here, I think he made a bit of a mistake. He charges into my light auxilia, which these guys get a bonus versus chariots, so that probably wasn't real smart, but my men were in loose formation, so he's still going to get most of them killed. But as you can see, I actually routed one of his British light chariots, so I think there he underestimated the light auxilia's ability to fight against chariots. It's one of their specialties, chariots and elephants, and sometimes people ignore those skirmisher units because they're not always very useful in a battle. In any case, here is some more of his chariots threatening my flank. And I do need to be careful. If he gets enough of these guys in and starts a rout, I'll be in big trouble. And here he's kind of coming after my cavalry. I'm going to get it out of there. He nearly got it. That would have been very bad. So as you can see, my opponent just started to move some more troops back out here in the woods. Let's go take a look at those. As you know, that the Britannia's main strength lies in missile troops, so my opponent's running up some head hurlers here, and head hurlers are very dangerous, and he's held these in reserve to get my army's attention focused so that he can bring them in and cause some damage. But I screened off his chariots, and I immediately charged out and slammed into his head hurlers. As you can see, these guys have swords, and they're no slouches, so they don't exactly rout, because my Roman cavalry isn't exactly, you know, super ferocious. However, I do rout 1 unit of them, and that was very good. I need to get rid of many of these head hurlers as possible because they'll devastate my infantry. Looks like I got another unit of them routing. And this unit right here throws some heads and kills a bunch of my horses, and now his chariots are catching up with me as well, so it's time for me to leave. And really at this point his chariots are plenty fast to keep up with my cavalry, even though Roman cavalry has a fast moving trait. Chariots are also fast moving, and so I'm not going to really be able to get away. My cavalry's doomed, but hopefully they've accomplished what I needed them to, in killing as many of these head hurlers as possible. So, the battle continues. But I think that, even though I lost my cavalry, I think that was a pretty good exchange for me. There goes my general. So we're going to pretend that wasn't Caesar, because that would be kind of a big hitch of his invasion of Brittania. Yeah, dying probably wasn't part of his plan. So, we're just going to pretend that that was one of his lieutenants or something. Alright, so I'm firing some arrows at his heavy chariots there, and I end up routing him. Yeah, his slingers are still out here trying to deal me the business. And I've used some of my infantry to chase them off for a moment, and now he's run his chariots in to chase my infantry back. This is kind of a dangerous army that my opponent used. It really has great potential. These chariots are very devastating, and he had a lot of missile units, and so he had the potential to really devastate me, especially since this was a 10k game. I had to be very careful of his missile units. However, I'm going to cut out most of the rest of this battle because it is basically Imperator Celtic skirmishing with me, which is very smart. He's going to make the most of his missiles, and he's going to keep his chariots in my rear to keep my men focused. Here's my Legionnaires. Man, they really got some air on those Pilla. Look at that. These guys need to go to the Olympics. Goodness. I don't really know if they can throw them that far in real life. Anyway, here comes some of his heads. He's hurling heads in. So there went a bunch of my men. So as you can see, it was very good that I got rid of those head hurlers way earlier. But my Pilla are also being exchanged. That's the bad thing about head hurlers, is they have to come in range of my Pilla. And since he didn't have any sword infantry per se, his head hurlers are going to take some severe damage. And there they get pillaed again. And right now they're wavering. Look at them hurling those heads. It's pretty nasty. They didn't exactly have a good way to clean up after that. Alright, like I said, I'm going to cut off the rest of this battle, and I'll come back towards the end and show you what's happened after the skirmishing's over. Alright, here's part of the final phase of the battle. I've waited for his slingers to get very tired, and then my legionaries who are fresh, I've run down this hill, and I was actually able to catch a bunch of his forces. He decides to go ahead and fight me some here, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of options because I've caught his men, though he's trying to keep his general safe there, I think. His chariots came into the rear, but I sent what light auxilia I had left, plus my auxilia spearmen, and they were able to rout these barbarian warlord chariots, which was very good for me. That way they couldn't slam into the rear of my men while I was trying to deal with his slingers and other units here. And after this, Imperator Celtic tries to regroup his army, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward that part as well. Alright, after my opponent regrouped his army, he saw that he was going to have very little chance of being able to pull it off, but he fought very well. As you can see, he had more kills in this battle than I did. That's why I was trying to say that his army was dangerous. Fortunately for me, those kills weren't my infantry. They were my cavalry and basically my archers and light auxilia. And so, because I was able to keep my heavy infantry intact, I could resist his slingers pretty well because of my legionnaires' shields. And I was also able to use my remaining auxilia spears that you can see here to ward off his cavalry. That was a very interesting battle, a cool army that my opponent brought, and I liked it. I thought it was actually semi-historical, so I hope you enjoyed this kind of battle where Caesar invaded Brittania, but even though Caesar died. So we'll just ignore that part of history. But in any case, hope you enjoyed the battle.